What? Eating and shitting.
Oh, John, we're on camera. No, I could talk and I
Right.
can eat.
We've never, said anything like
Yeah,
that
well,
before.
anything off color.
Never.
But yeah, I like, you know what? I always say I'm looking for that special. Everybody has a skill, right? Obviously, we know what your skill is. I mean, only a chosen few have that skill. I'm still looking for that skill. Where's the skill? I mean, all right, I can absorb a tremendous amount of carbohydrates. I'm good at sleeping. Not really, not good at sleeping anymore. Although my mother did tell me when I was younger I could fall asleep on a picket fence. That's how easy I used to fall asleep. I used to fall asleep holding a cup of coffee
Really?
and having a conversation.
Wow.
Yeah, when you just keep pushing yourself and going. But where's the skill set? Tiger
I
Woods,
don't
we know
know.
what
That
his skill
seems like
set
a
was.
skill set.
What?
Falling asleep while there's hot coffee in your hand.
Yeah, and I only wore it a couple of times. But yeah, so I mean, everybody's got a skill, supposedly. You know, but suppose you don't hone that skill, right? So I'm looking for the skill to hone.
That goes back to that line, and I know it. I know that the writers didn't invent it, but I think was it Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman?
Yeah.
Nothing worse than wasted talent.
Yeah, think about that. I mean, all right, so Tiger Woods is a phenomenal golfer. But his father put a golf club in his hand at like 2 months old. I mean,
Yeah.
the guy was on Mike Douglas. Remember Mike Douglas?
Sure.
Kid was on Mike Douglas at like 2 or 3. I mean, so if Tiger Woods Sr. didn't put the golf club in there,
Right.
he'd be wearing a white shirt talking about a podcast at 61 and a half years old. I mean, you know what I mean? Just be another guy.
I do.
Now
I
suppose your skill set, which you excelled at. I mean, suppose, all the things in life. I mean, think how many things had to fall into place and push you in a direction and the stars aligned and you just found that niche and you took off and ran with it.
But I think that's the truth. What you said, the stars align. I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I really do believe that very few of us just happen by chance into a career or a position. I'm one of those guys that believes that the significant things in your life happen for a reason. And, the viewers, you've heard that over and over and over again. But I believe it's true. And I don't mean, are you eating halibut versus salmon tonight for dinner? I don't think that matters unless you're supposed to get poisoned by the halibut, end up in the hospital, you meet a nurse, you fall in love, and she's your wife.
That's a great story. That must happen
Right.
100 times at the hospital.
Sure, and you know what? And then on their license plate, they can have a plate with a halibut in between the digits.
Nice. Now, don't like a lot of people fall in love with nurses, John? Because nurses always, like they're always taking care of people. And, when you're at your worst, if you have to go to a hospital and you're like, wow, this is like Mother Teresa here. Like, look how, but it's her job.
Do a lot of people fall in love with nurses?
Like-
That's an interesting question. Boy, that sounds like, with a little research on facts and data and figures, I don't mean physical figures, I meant numbers.
Sure.
I don't know. That sounds like it's an episode, in and of itself.
Yeah.
Do a lot of people fall in love with nurses? Well, I think this is true. That no matter where you work, you can work in a big, tall skyscraper, on the 60th floor, and you can work for a law firm or an insurance company or an accounting firm. People are usually under pressure at work. And people that work diligently, they if you're at any particular given institution long enough, you have a gaggle of close people. And maybe
Sure.
that gaggle is 10, 20, 30, 100 people, depending on what it is. And you experience all of the same things. You go through all of the slings and arrows together. You'll find yourself in the presence of assassins and lovers.
Interesting.
And so if it happens to be that you work in a hospital or that you were a patient in a hospital and you meet a nurse and certain special something happens, and the violins play.
Cupid pulls
That's
back
how,
his bow.
that's how people.
Draw back your bow.
I tell you what, I only once in a while, if I'll say, hey, how'd you meet your wife, or how'd you meet your husband, at a bar. Very few people say that to me. Either that, or they don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What about, John? I mean, let's face it. I mean, talk about meeting people at work and a gaggle of people that you go through a lot of stuff with. I mean, how many hours do you spend at work? 70% of your life is spent at work.
A lot.
How sad is that?
You know, a lot of people say I'm working my ass off, and honestly, for them, they are, because that's all they know. But if they compare themselves to how other people viciously work their ass off, they're not even in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not going to start with that, because there's very few people that can match what I put myself through. But when you put yourself through hell, and you're dealing with life and death and high stress, and you know, it comes like a tsunami. You know, people bond over emotional episodes. They do.
100%.
Right.
I mean, listen, emotion is everything in the human makeup. You know, emotions will make you or break you.
Yeah.
You know, and it goes back to what I've said, and you said also. Mindset. Life is a mindset.
Right.
You know, your mindset at work, your mindset under stress, you know, your mindset during a divorce. It's all mindset.
It is. It depends on, you know, your emotional thermostat and where it's set and where it naturally lies.
Yeah.
Look at the hit TV show MASH. For a
Okay.
lot of you younger people out there, you may never have heard of it, and that's a shame. One of the best programs ever,
Great
ever,
show.
ever on television.
10
it
years,
ran,
John?
I don't know, 10 or 11, something
Maybe
like
longer.
that.
Yeah.
But think about the interaction between the guys and the girls.
Yeah.
Now, Hawkeye Pierce was supposed to be portrayed as a lech, right? He was constantly talking to
Yeah.
girls. You know, whether they were nurses in the MASH tent or collateral personnel. And I don't, you know, probably women entered the theater of war more and more as the years went by. So there were relatively few in World War One.
The nurse's nickname was Hot Lips, right?
Well, that, yeah,
Hot Lips.
Absolutely.
Come on.
Right, Loretta Swit from Passaic, New Jersey.
Mm.
But you know, they were thrown there, and it was, you know, MASH stands for Mobile Army Surgical Hospital.
Well, I would
right?
think so, yeah.
So, all right, it's a hospital. It's a hospital, and the shit hits the fan, and the helicopters fly, and the same thing happened when I was training at a major trauma center. As a matter of fact, some naval personnel used to come and do rotations at the hospital because it was a time of peace, and we had some real blood and guts, you
Wow.
know, trauma
Yeah.
in Camden, New Jersey. So yeah, it was pretty interesting, and people naturally kind of gravitate toward one another. And you know, I guess it's sad if the gals have boyfriends or fiancés back home, or the guys have fiancés and girlfriends back home, and all of a sudden they're halfway across the planet, or they're out of state, or they're right next door, and when the emotions hit and you're working your asses off together, there's a bond that happens. And you know, if there's a real, true, sincere feeling of attachment, how do you
Separate.
scourge these people? How do you blame them? How do you blame them? I'm not saying that it's the optimal thing, but shit happens. That's why you hear about a lot of physicians that you hear, oh, he's on his third wife. Okay. All right. Well, it's kind of like rolling the dice, isn't it? You know, you think you're going to take that shot. You got all of your chips on the table, and you throw those dice and you crap out. You crap out. That means your marriage didn't work. For whatever reason, it didn't work. What are you going to do? Put your tail up your ass and walk away and leave the casino of life? I don't think so. So you try it again, and you start dating somebody else 4 years later, and all of a sudden things are getting close, and it looks like it's probably this is the one, blah, blah, blah. You roll the dice, and you don't crap out right away, right? But you crap out 5 years later. So what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to quit life again? And now you're only 49 or 50 or 51? Really? You're going to just throw in the towel? No, 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 no. Go for that third marriage, big guy.
Yeah.
I'm only kidding.
Yeah.
I'm only kidding.
Well, John.
I've only been married once, but it's been one relationship after the next. That's another one. And we didn't do a
please.
countdown. We didn't do a countdown. I'm slipping out the back on this topic.
All right. Well, let's John. When it comes to bonding with a group, I mean, a great analogy would be sports.
Yeah.
If you're on a hockey team, a football team, a baseball team, and you struggle through a season, there's high points, low points. You pick up your teammate who's down.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's why I love hockey, because hockey, you really stand up for each other, and you really become a team, and you don't forget those guys on your team.
Right.
I mean, those guys are there, your teammates, and you've been through some winnings, some losses that are heartbreaking, and like you said, in a struggle in a different way, but you bond over it.
So it's the bonding that we're talking about
Yeah.
that really, I think, has its basis in. Well, I don't want to label it as trauma bonding. That's something else. That's kind of like the cuff and the link with narcissistic relationships, and that's not where I'm going with this. But stress, challenge, trauma, when you bond in the face of stress, challenge, and trauma, there's a special bond that you develop between you and the people that are around you. And then if you find chemistry with those people, look out. Unless you're both single and available, then yahoo.
Yeah.
But if you're not single and you're not available, look out.
Yeah.
Now, transfer. Here, let's talk about all the people you could bond with. And let's talk about how obviously they present themselves to you, or you seem to glean from them everything that you need, and you don't really get gobsmacked with their ego, right? Because, oh, so-and-so, God, she's always there, and she just jumps into every scenario, and she helped me save somebody's life, and my God, I look into her eyes and I get captured immediately. Oh my God. But she's married. Okay, then you better turn the gas down. Turn down that flame, big guy, or gal, turn it down. But on the stage of life, in the trauma center of life, that's what it is. The trauma center of life, we bond with lots of different entities, don't we? What entities do we bond with that never, ever show us their ego? And if they do, it's a hoot and we laugh over it and we go, oh, he's so cute.
I know where you're going with this.
It's your pets.
The bond with a pet, and there's
It's your animals.
and there's no trauma there.
No, there's no trauma, but life around you is like a dump truck. It's like a top loader that backs up. The operator pulls that lever, and you get 69 tons of shit dumped right on you, and now you're encased in it. So, when has your beloved pet, whether it's a cat or a dog or a cockatoo or a parakeet or a horse or a donkey, a jackass, whatever, when do you come home drunk out of your mind after you've thrown up 14 times and you feel like you're seasick and you want to kill yourself? They're always there waiting for you, aren't they? Or if you did somebody wrong and you didn't mean to and it just worked out terrible and you broke somebody's heart and you come home feeling really bad about everything, your cat or your dog or your donkey or your horse or your bird is sitting there waiting for you. Win, lose, or draw, right?
Absolutely.
No ego. They are. I always say that we are fractals of the loving, magnanimous Creator. I got news for you, people, and I'm talking directly to the people who have recently lost their pets, because I've gone through it over and over. Your animals absolutely persist after their bodies fall away. Your animals have souls. Don't let any jerk off, even if they're in a white lab coat with a clipboard, don't let anybody try to tell you, no, 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 no. Only humans have souls. Animals don't have souls. They're inconsequential. That's all, like someone very close to me says, that's a lie from the devil. So, it's a lie from the devil. I have past pets come to me at night. My present wolf dog, Lucky, invades my astral traveling, and he knows that I didn't ask him. Your animals persist. It's their energy, it's their love for you. That's why they're given to you. That's why you have them. They're just irrevocable guardians. They're guardians of your emotions, they're guardians of your spirit, and some of them are outright physical guardians for you in this crazy world. What you say?
I would say so, John. I mean, that bond, I think it is with animals. They're like the calm during after the storm. If you had a tough day at work, things didn't go so well, you got a flat tire on the highway, whatever it is, you come home, and that your pet is always there, just to calm you down, show you the same kind of love that they showed you yesterday, even though maybe you didn't take them for a walk or you weren't so nice to them or you didn't have time, right, to spend with them. They don't care. Hey, you're home. I'm glad you're home.
Yeah,
And I think that's where that bond comes. Like, no matter what happens,
yeah.
unless they rip up the couch or something, they're really not going to give you much grief. Right?
See how I said you don't really experience their ego, but when you do, it's a hoot, it's a laugh.
Yeah.
I cherish there's a big scratch across my mother's coffee table, and it's still in her house. My parents are passed, and whenever I'm there and I look at that scratch, I'm encased by the love that my dog Nitka had for me.
The lovely
and that
Nitka.
I had for her because she used to love to chase a leather glove, and I whip it across the house, and she'd go running, and when her feet went from the rug to the hardwood floor, she would do the Scooby-Doo slip, and she loved that game. So one day, my mother was sleeping on the couch, and in between her and I was the coffee table. I figured the dog, Nitka, if I threw the glove onto the couch where my mother was, I figured she would go around and jump up onto my mom. It would be a joke, right? No. I whipped that glove across the coffee table. That glove landed on my mom, on her belly, and Nitka just went wham! Right across the coffee table. My brother had like heirloom bird carvings and shit. Everything went up in the air and flying. Nitka's feet hit the top of the coffee table and put a gouge in the top. And my mother sat up screaming, "What the hell are you doing?" And I didn't know whether to laugh or run. And the dog was terrified because, it was like an explosion. Everything went to shit in a second.
Yeah.
So I had to calm the dog down. Then I calmed my mother down second. And she goes, "Oh, look at the coffee table." And I was like, "Oh, shit. Oh my God. Geez, a little joke really, really blew up in my face." But that scratch is still in the coffee table.
Well, that's something. I've got a couple cute stories as well, John.
Shoot, go ahead.
There's that, everybody's into rescuing now, rescuing your pets, and I support that 120%. The last dog that I rescued, we had it for about 6 to 8 months, and, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just started limping one day. That was a $4,500 knee surgery. So that was pretty funny. That was cute.
What kind of dog?
It was a shepherd mix with something else. So, $4,500 for the free dog out the window.
Yeah.
And then there was another time, the free dog I took to the free rabies clinic behind the baseball field where the adult softball game was going on. And the gentleman just happened to hit a home run that the ball went through my windshield.
Really?
Oh, yeah. That cost me about $450 with the free rabies shot and the free dog. And then the previous dog I rescued tore up our backyard. I mean, the poor thing was a big dog. I love big dogs. Tore up the grass, so we had to build a pen. I mean, a beautiful pen, 15 by 50. I mean, tremendous.
Yeah.
That was no, beautiful white. That
PVC?
fake white.
PVC?
Yeah, really beautiful.
You didn't try to dig under it?
No,
Shoot the shit out of it?
No, because we put the rocks, like so.
Yep.
So that was $7,500 of fencing around the yard to go with another $1,200 in rocks, for the free dog. So these are all wonderful stories that you told a nice, cute, warm story.
Yeah.
All these stories are very warm to me, about free dogs and raising them and stuff like that. But what are you going to do, right? They do make you feel good on
Yeah.
a bad day.
Or any day.
Amen. Yeah, they really do.
So, and then there's all sorts of ways to part with your beloved animals, animals.
That's always a pleasure.
Right, and,
They're here to break your heart. They're just, and the more you love them, the bigger the heartbreak.
well, I think,
See, I don't have a heart, so I'm okay.
and we all know that that's bullshit. I hate to say it, I'm not a dark person. I'm anything but. You can't be a dark, negative, pessimistic person and take apart a baby and put it back together and have it be better than when you started and hand it back to its parents, and then it'll live, God willing, to be 90. So you can't be a pessimistic person, and I'm not. But there's all different ways to leave your lover, so to speak. 50 ways to leave your lover, 50 ways to walk away from your heart, your soul, your pets. And some of them, I got to tell the story. We had a dog for, I don't know how old Chips was when he died.
Ooh,
I think he was,
200?
I think he was like 14. He was a border collie mix.
Yeah.
And in the last few years of his life, he was a diabetic. I think he had Cushing's syndrome. He had all sorts of terrible endocrine problems.
How smart was that dog?
Chips was very smart. I mean, he was hit at least 3 times by cars because he had girlfriends over Hill and Dale. He had girlfriends in South End, and he used to go down and see his girlfriends and then make his way back.
Always found his way back.
He got hit at least 3 times, and that was our fault. We were stupid kids. But Chips, toward the end, all he could do, probably because he was a diabetic and starved for calories, at least that's what his brain was telling him, he would sit next to you and and breathe his hot breath on you and kind of disturb your dinner. So I was away working out of the house. I was a bartender back then at the Livingston Holiday Inn on Route 10 in Livingston, New Jersey. And my brother, I'm not sure what he was doing, but he was home and he made himself a steak. And he was throwing some of the scraps to the dog. The dog's name was Chips. And Chips at the end got so ravenous that you couldn't feed him with your hand anymore. You had to toss it. Otherwise, he would inadvertently, unintentionally get your hand. And I think he nipped my brother's hand, not bad, and my brother whacked him on the head, on the snoot, like, hey, like this, and fed him a few more pieces, and then the dog went to the bathroom on the rug, and my brother whapped him across the top of the head, which my brother went to his grave, God bless him, feeling guilty about that, because when he whapped him across the head, the dog let out a gasp and fell over dead.
Is that how Chips died?
Yeah.
I've never known that
That's
story.
the truth. That's the truth. And we used to rib my brother for years about that, trying to get him past the guilt that he felt about the whole thing. My beloved Nitka was a Keeshond, and Gene had Shasta, and I had Nitka, and you had Chow, a big lion like Chow. And
Great dog.
yeah, oh my God. And so, Nitka toward the end went through all sorts of traumas. She watched my sister get sick and die. And Nitka was about 14 also. And she was the love of everybody's life in the family. She was my grandmother who used to live with us. She was her best friend, other than the family
Sure.
members. Now, to make the long story short, I drove up from Cherry Hill, New Jersey with my wife and my infant son, and we were going to stay over a night or two, and then we were going on to Canada to go to Montreal for 2 years. So I couldn't just drive from Cherry Hill up because I had to say goodbye to everybody, including my dog, who was old. And my dad said to me, "Hey," he goes, this isn't right. He goes, she's starting to go to the bathroom in the house. You got to take care of this. You got to take her over to the Cedar Grove Animal Hospital before you leave." And I said, "Okay, Dad, I'll do it. I'll do it. It's my responsibility." So we get there, and no matter how down and out or infirmed Nitka was, and she weighed about, I don't know, 40 pounds, something like that. Whenever I showed up, she would like leap into my arms, and when I would pick her up, her head would wrap around my neck this way, and she would put her hindquarters and her tail around. She would wrap her body around me, and she would be like whimpering. I'm going to start crying. She loved me so much, and I loved her, but my life took me away. My life took me to dental school in Manhattan, where I met my wife, who was now my ex-wife, but the mother of my 3 kids. Then I went to the island of Grenada in St. Vincent's to start medical school. And then I went to Camden and spent 9 years in Camden between graduating from Robert Wood Johnson and spending 9 years at the trauma center and med school and residency. And now it was time for me to finish the last leg of my professional journey regarding training, was to go now to Montreal, and then I would be back home, apparently. Well, Nitka wasn't going to make it. And so when I saw her and she was so full of life, I couldn't do it, Phil.
Oh,
I
it's not
couldn't
easy.
do it. I said, "Dad," he says, my father used to go like, he'd go, "All right,
I get it. Yeah.
all right, fine." Because the dog was like 2 different dogs. And it was about a week after I was up in Montreal. We're still opening boxes, moving into an apartment. Phone rang, and it was my dad. He says, "I did it." I said, "You did?" He goes, "Yeah, she's gone."
That's all right. Hey, listen, this is why we have animals,
I said, "How did it go?" Now, you have to understand that when we went straight down Bradford Avenue to the main intersection of Route 23 and Bradford Ave, if you made a right, she knew you were going to the park. And she would perk up and she'd put her, if you made a left, the animal
100%.
hospital was in sight. It was diagonally right across the road. And she would get on the floor in the back seat and start whimpering. She didn't want to go to the animal hospital, And so he said, I drove her there. She just looked at me. There was no reaction. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't whimpering. I put the leash on her in the parking lot. I walked her right up to the front door. Now you have to understand that whenever I took Nitka to the vet, I would have to kick the door open with my left foot because I was holding her and she was kind of squiggly.
Oh,
and
yeah.
when I went through the threshold, she would go like this with both paws, and she would grab the threshold, the sides of the doors, and I'd say, "Would you stop?" I'd have to arm wrestle her legs off and then run in, and she was only going in for a shot, a checkup, whatever.
Yeah. Those doctors are mean.
My father said, I said, "Dad, did she fight?" He goes, "Oh no,
Oh.
no. They saw me coming. They knew I was coming. I had called ahead." He says, "I gave the leash to the vet tech who came out from behind that door, right?" He goes, "Then I started to walk out, and I turned back and I looked at her, and she was looking straight ahead. Then she turned back and looked at me, gave me one last look, and just out of her own
Of course she did. Of course she did. One last look.
Just walked straight in.
Yeah, wow. Because they know. They know. They know. Listen, this is why, for all you pet lovers out there, and despite the financial burden I have absorbed from animals, I do love them. But you have to realize they're here for a short time. Their existence, their job is to keep us happy for 5, 10. You get 10 years from a dog. That's amazing. Nick was how old? 14?
14.
Oh my gosh, 14.
Mike's mother, Shih Tzu, 22 years.
So I mean, come on, these are beautiful stories, a lot of love, but like humans, that expiration date has got to come and go. So
So how did this? What prompted this? I got a text from my daughter this morning. Dad, yeah, what's up? Rowdy died. Rowdy is my daughter Ariel's boyfriend's English bulldog. Bulldog.
I love bulldogs.
And I think he got him in his teens. And I think Rowdy would have turned 13 in January. But he was like the family comic.
Yeah.
He wasn't an animal. You believe that animals don't have souls? You're a fucking idiot. So, it's you could be thick as peanut butter with your dog or your cat, and then something happens and they run away. The cat gets accosted by a fox or eaten by a coyote or God forbid gets hit by a car. Same thing with the dog, right? Or you leave like I did, and I left Nitka behind because that's where life had me go. In John's case, he had years of travel junior hockey.
Oh,
He was one of those guys
yeah.
that was, I don't know where he was. I don't know if he was in North Dakota, then Pennsylvania.
Sure.
One of those guys. And then he ended up in Boston playing, varsity collegiate hockey. That's where he met my daughter.
Lovely Ariel.
And they had their life. And of course, Rowdy wasn't left alone in a cage. Rowdy's got, 2 of John's younger siblings there with the mother and the stepmother and father. And so Rowdy had a great life, but to get that phone call that he's gone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now it's...
Let me describe what my daughter told me.
Okay.
What happened? She said, Dad, he went out the front door like he always does. Now, they live on a big, big farm. Like,
wow.
Thousands of acres. One of those, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Down in, I think Louisiana. And he went out. She said he rolled in the clover like he always does. He loves rolling in the clover. Then he peed. He looked around, gave a few sniffs, came back up, had a little trouble with the steps, and went into the kitchen and took his place next to the stove where he always sits. Stepmom came back 10 minutes later. Sayonara. Rowdy's gone. Rowdy's off the planet. He snuck out the back. There was no gasping. Bulldogs can, there was no suffering. There was no gasping. I guess that's the way to go.
100%.
I couldn't stop crying this morning. Me, and I never met the dog.
And you never met the dog.
I saw cell phone videos of him.
Jesus Christ. Well, I'm going to throw a question out. I'm going to throw something at you, John, a scenario. Yeah. And dog lovers might not want to hear this. This may not be the right episode to bring it up. But, I mean, a dog, there's that interaction, okay? That bond we talked about. Somebody told me one time, your dog loves you. I said, yeah, of course, This person told me that if he came over my house every day and fed my dog, that my dog would go to him before it came to me. Because the dog's natural instinct is basically for food. Food over love.
Well,
I thought that was interesting.
I don't think that we're any different.
I know I'm not.
I don't.
That's for sure.
The biological human condition on this planet, that's what kind of leads us. And let's face it, when you meet a member in your case, a member of the opposite sex. In my case, the same, but that's not true for everybody.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
when we meet that person and we think they're so special, it's because
They're
our
freedom.
onboard computer is doing the Terminator thing, and blah, 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 and the numbers are spinning like on a one-armed bandit, blah, 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 and all of a sudden, 3 sevens come up because that chick, that hen, fulfills all of these subliminal voids that we seek to fill. And we can't really put our finger on
Fill
it.
in
If
the
we
gaps.
analyzed it, maybe we would figure it out. But you turn that crank, everything rolls, and 3 sevens come up, and it's the jackpot.
Well,
That's what a dog goes through with people. But if you're going to buy a dog or be given a dog, you know what? There's a love and a bond that goes between you guys, and every once in a while, more than every once in a while, I'll be sitting on a couch watching YouTube videos, and Lucky will come over and put his head on me, acting all,
they are
cute.
characters, those
And,
dogs.
and then it's a love fest. Then I'm scratching under his chin, which he loves. Then I'm, mushing up his ears, which he loves. Then I massage his butt right over his tail. He loves. He dances all around. Lucky is a wolf husky hybrid. And then he reaches a point where he jumps back and looks at me and goes, whoop, and then runs to the cabinet.
Yeah.
Because it's a give and take. He's not stupid. He just buttered you up. He just leveraged you. Now this is the time I'm going to get him for the treat.
It works like a charm.
And you've seen it.
He's done it to me. Those animals. Well, I'd like to offer my condolences to John. Is his name?
Yeah.
Rowdy's
Yep.
brother, father, whatever he
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Better days are coming. You have the memories, and just think how great you treated that animal. That's why I tell people animals are only here for a short time.
Yeah.
How lucky was he? We're lucky to get to know them, but how lucky was the animal that he grew up and lived? That's why he lived as long as he did
Of course.
in such a loving home. So his family, made Rowdy feel like $1 million his whole life,
Rowdy was
and you can't ask for anything else.
the center of so much of that family.
I say, John, you go out, you purchase a beautiful dog, and you ship it out to Ariel and John, and
Well,
just
they have Nova now. Nova's a very large female German Shepherd mix.
oh, okay.
Yeah, we all love Nova.
How old's Nova? A couple years or young? A baby? Oh, really?
Yeah, like Nova.
So Rowdy's already replaced.
Well.
Oh my
well,
God! Are you kidding me?
They're out of state, way out of state now.
I know. I'm just teasing.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so all right. The next dog I was going to say always eases the pain, and there'll be another one and another one, and if they get married and have kids, their kids are going to grow up with a dog. It's the beautiful thing. It's the way life is.
Absolutely.
So like anything else, we're only here in a short time. 2 legs, 4 legs.
Yeah.
It is what it
And
is.
of course, we're not dissing the cat people out there. I mean, look,
Cats.
I
Don't even bring them in.
I had a cat
Please.
as a small child, Tippy, and and we had a cat in the marital house for 16 years.
Oh,
And I kind of tolerated the cat because
I'm allergic to cats.
so am I.
Yeah.
So am I. But that didn't matter to the powers that were.
Ouch.
But the day that cat died, I took on one of the most difficult physical tasks of my life, and I'm pretty capable. I dug a 4-foot deep hole, 3 feet long and 18 inches wide, on my front lawn under the old oak tree, and all I hit were large rocks and tree roots, and I almost killed myself pulling that off. But when it was done, it looked like a professional crew had done it, and I went out and I got a basket. I wrapped the cat in a blue airline blanket. I fucking cried my eyes out over Sherlock. That was the cat's
Sherlock,
name. Sherlock.
that's amazing.
Sherlock was born on the beach on the island of Grenada.
Oh, wow. So this cat had history.
This cat had history, and
Wow.
I didn't take the cat home. My wife at the time did. She was a year behind me, and Yeah, Sherlock was a
Wow,
great
that's a great
cat.
story.
Yeah, and
You know, my aunt once buried her Doberman Pinscher in the backyard, but because she was weak, she only went down like 8 inches. So sooner or later, like the paws were sticking out with a couple reins.
are you serious?
A little bit, yeah, yeah. That's what happened. So they had to rebury Jeff, the Doberman Pinscher.
Well, that's like that Sopranos episode.
Yeah.
Tony Soprano says, "You threw the body where? You fucking idiot!
Yeah.
You go back. You go back and move that body after like 3 weeks in the summer."
Oh, minga. John, this has been a very interesting episode. I'd love for you to alchemize it if you could.
Yeah.
I know you
Yeah.
can.
Well, look, the episode is about the love and the bond that human beings have for their animals, not just dogs. And you could. I mean, I've seen some Go ahead.
I want to interrupt because there are people who I will not name, but I know they're socially inept with people. But with animals, John, there's something about an animal that brings out love and compassion
Look
and
at look at
and
the therapy dogs that
therapy
that they bring
dogs.
to the prisons. And look, you know what? I think that if you have certain issues, you're more likely to maybe cross a line where you end up
100%.
behind bars. I'm not judging anybody, God forbid. But you know, it's interesting that when a dog gets to know an inmate, the inmate instinctively knows there's no ego coming back at me with the dog, and the dog loves that guy or that gal
Interesting.
for their soul. The dogs can see through all of the bullshit.
Yeah.
They can peel the layers of the onion, and they can dogs give you their soul for all of their strange, funny habits and all of their failures and their successes. And look up some of those videos on the internet, YouTube, of the donkey lady comes out of the house and the donkey's wearing like pink ankle wraps, and she's like, "Oh, hi, so and so," and the donkey's like,
You can't make it up.
you know, or the lady in the barn with the horse, and she's like, kissing the horse all over the place. I mean, I have to admit, I have horse envy. I do. My father grew up working a stable in Newark with his brother. They were horse kids. They were horse people in Newark, New Jersey, way back in the 30s and 40s.
You can have a horse in your backyard. It's big enough.
Anytime I'm near a horse, the horse puts its ears back and they're like, "Oh, don't go near the fence." It's like, no. I think I'm going back to the car.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, and if I get on a horse, everybody's like, "Hey, we're in a line. We got the instructor. Everybody do this. Everybody do that." And my horse decides it's going over here.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I'm suspecting is the horse is going to jump a fence or go under a low branch just to get me the fuck off its back. For some reason, horses don't like me, but I love them. I love horses. So anyway, alchemize this. All I would say to the viewers is animals have souls. Every living thing that passes through this world is a fractal of the Creator, not just people. And why is it that we can hear of somebody's passing that we didn't know personally, and we'll go, "Oh, geez, oh wow, isn't that amazing? Hey, are we having turkey or roast beef for lunch?" Right? Somebody's dog passes or somebody's cat passes, lump in throat, you know, you get teary-eyed and you start reflecting, because animals are a presentation in this physical world of God's love for the world and for us. And if you treat animals poorly, you've got a long way to go before you reach nirvana.
Yeah, you're
So,
a bad person.
I'm going to say a prayer for Rowdy and for John and for all of the animals everywhere. And it's also a good reason why we shouldn't consume animal flesh, although I love a good steak.
The guy eats a steak a day.
I
Yeah.
love a pork chop.
Oh,
I love sausage on the grill.
yeah, yeah.
I love a
Got-
1 pound Fuddruckers hamburger, but Fuddruckers is gone, so you know, amen. Rest in peace, Fuddruckers. But I'll just say a quick prayer. Now, I should have had queued up some prayer from Saint Francis of Assisi,
Assisi.
who was one of my patron saints, who was the saint of the
Animals,
animals.
sure.
His statue's in my backyard. Yeah, and we'll just make it simple. Dear Lord in heaven, thank you, Creator of the universe, for sending us fractals of your magnanimous love in the form of animals, regardless of the form, whether it's your parakeet or your llama or your alpaca or your pig or your cats or your dogs or your horses or your donkeys, even your fish. God bless the animals, and in the spirit of St. Francis of Assisi, God bless the relationship that humanity has with the gifts that God hands us. And they will be waiting there for us after they pass and after we pass from this temporary physical existence, because the soul never dies. And that includes your loving animals, because they are forever gifts from the Creator. Amen.
Rowdy, that was for you. John, what a fantastic episode. Thank you, everybody, for watching us on the Jersey Alchemist. Please press like, follow, and
Subscribe.
what a beautiful thing. Till next
That's
time,
it.
people. Jersey
See you again
Alchemist.
soon.
Peace.
Jersey Alchemist.
Not going to spill the coffee. Okay.